Now, the biggest problem for US President Donald Trump is not Iran or North Korea. It is the investigation against him for allegedly colluding with Russians to influence the 2016 election outcome because it threatens his very existence. The probe, headed by Special Counsel Robert Mueller, has had some serious consequences. It is now finally out with its findings. The report is the culmination of 2 years of investigation by Robert Mueller, which saw some of the president's closest former aides prosecuted and in some cases even imprisoned. As per due procedure of American law, it was submitted to the US Attorney General William Barr, who then released his summary of the report, which has said that the probe has concluded that US President Donald Trump, and listen to this, Donald Trump did not collude with Russia during the 2016 presidential election. Trump, of course, wasted no time to declare it as complete exoneration, while also calling the inquiry itself an illegal takedown that failed.
There was no collusion with Russia. There was no obstruction, and none whatsoever. And it was a complete and total exoneration. It's a shame that our country had to go through this. To be honest, it's a shame that your president has had to go through this before I even got elected. It began. And it began illegally. And hopefully somebody's going to look at the other side. This was an illegal takedown that failed. And hopefully somebody's going to be looking at the other side. So it's complete exoneration. No collusion, no obstruction.
But the Attorney General's summary read, and I quote here, "While this report does not conclude that the president committed a crime, it also does not exonerate him." Prominent Democrats, including House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, have called for the full disclosure of the report. They're demanding that the entire report be published. They've even threatened to use congressional powers to acquire the full report and supporting documents. Pelosi and Senate Democratic leader Chuck Schumer, in a joint statement, also said that Barr's letter raises as many questions as it answers. Christopher Willier, the whistleblower from Cambridge Analytica, also dismissed this report. He took to Twitter to say, and I'm quoting again, "Whatever this report says, here's what I know. When I was at Cambridge Analytica, the company hired known Russian agents and data researchers in St. Petersburg, tested US voter opinion on Putin's leadership and hired hackers from Russia, all while Bannon was in charge." He was referring to former White House chief strategist and Trump campaign CEO Steve Bannon. Legally, the special counsel's report is submitted to the Attorney General and has the power to withhold it or release only parts of it. Strangely, Donald Trump has also supported its release. Strange because it seems like he hasn't read the summary. And he hasn't read it enough to understand that he hasn't been exonerated. The summary says that the probe has found that Moscow did meddle in the 2016 election. The investigation did not establish that members of the Trump campaign conspired or coordinated with the Russian government. The report summary also did not draw a conclusion as to whether a US president committed acts that led to obstruction of justice, but it certainly did not exonerate him. It is not a clean chit. And now, Attorney General William Barr could be called on to testify to the U.S. House of Representatives Judiciary Committee after Chairman Gerald Nadler called out very concerning discrepancies in the report. He also said, and I quote, "Mueller did not exonerate the president." So he's off the hook for now, but the clouds still remain. Russia, meanwhile, has been an old ally of Venezuela and has been lending the country billions of dollars and backing its oil industry and military. Now, here comes the latest show of support to President Maduro. 2 Russian Air Force planes landed in Caracas, the capital of Venezuela, over the weekend. Russian news agencies claiming that these planes were sent to, quote-unquote, fulfill technical military contracts. No one's buying that. We delved in the story a bit deeper, and this is what we found.
A new shot in the Venezuelan cocktail of chaos. 2 Russian Air Force planes have landed in Venezuela, laden with troops and equipment. 100 soldiers, 35 tons of equipment, confirmed by Venezuelan journalist Javier Mayorga in a series of tweets. This was backed by a flight tracking website. It showed that 2 Russian planes were on their way to Caracas on Friday. Another flight tracker claims that a 3rd Russian jet left for Caracas on Sunday. Reports of Russian military's presence have raised eyebrows. Why are they coming to Venezuela? The Russian embassy in Caracas says it's business as usual. The planes, according to the embassy, are delivering goods as part of an ongoing joint project. Just 3 months ago, Russia had held joint military exercises with Venezuela. But a lot of water has flown under the bridge in the last 3 months. Venezuela has unraveled. A new man claims to be president. Nicolas Maduro's government is under pressure. America and many other countries side with this opponent. Maduro calls it a US-sponsored coup, an attempt to install opposition leader Juan Guaido in the presidential palace. Russia is one of the few nations that side with Mr. Maduro. Moscow has been an old ally of Caracas and has emerged as a key supporter of Maduro in this current crisis. Moscow has vocally condemned America's actions. Washington's tough sanctions have crushed the Venezuelan economy. Russia says it amounts to interference in Venezuela's domestic affairs. And that's what makes this Russian deployment ironic. On one hand, the Kremlin accuses the US of interference. On the other, it sends planes full of troops to Caracas. The US too has deployed forces in neighboring Puerto Rico and Colombia in preparation for a military intervention. Russia raised this at the United Nations.
We are very much concerned that the USA could carry out any provocations to shed blood to find a cause and reasons for an intervention in Venezuela. But we will do all in order to not allow this. Any attempts of illegal intervention into Venezuela will be regarded as an act of aggression and a major violation of international law.
It is certainly not the first time that Moscow has stepped in to support President Maduro's regime. In December, 2 nuclear-capable Tu-160 strategic bombers were sent to Venezuela as a highly visible demonstration of Russia's ability to intervene. The US has been equally brazen. President Donald Trump has threatened Venezuela with military intervention. His government has been bleeding Venezuela with new sanctions almost every week. Now it's an open tug-of-war between America and Russia, with the military thrown in. As for Venezuela, it continues to struggle. Power outages, water and food shortage, rampant riots and looting have become the new normal in this South American country. Bureau Report, WION, World is One.